My name is Sara Whitaker. I wasn't disowned in a dramatic fight or a slammed door. I was erased. In a group message. No confrontation. No phone call. Just one line. Clipped, cold, and final. Ocean View is full for the fourth. Maybe another time, Sarah. Mom. It wasn't the words that broke me. It was how easily they discarded me. Like I'd never sat on that porch swing. Never chased dolphins with Grandpa. Never belonged. But this isn't a story about exile. It's about return. Not with vengeance, but with deed papers. Not to take back a chair at their table, but to own the ground beneath it. If you've ever been erased with a smile, if your worth was decided by the ones who never saw you, stay with me. Because sometimes the best way to reclaim your name is to sign it on the dotted line and let the ocean carry the truth home. The text lit up my phone screen at 9:04 a.m., a time Janet would consider civil enough for unpleasant news. Whitaker family. Update. Ocean View is full for the fourth. Maybe another time, Sarah. Mom. No punctuation, no explanation. Just that passive-aggressive grace my mother had honed like a dagger over the years. My thumb hovered above the message, as if it might shift into something else. Something warmer if I stared long enough. It didn't. I sat in my kitchen, coffee gone lukewarm in my favorite mug, navy blue, chipped at the handle. The silence in the apartment was pristine, almost surgical. A faint hum from the refrigerator, the occasional clink of wind brushing the window, and the weight of something else. A rejection so familiar it should have hurt less. But it didn't. It burned. I always knew I didn't fit the Whitaker mold. Lauren, with her curated elegance, Pinterest-perfect smiles, and Michael, the walking resume, made the family proud. I was the anomaly. The consultant with a revolving door of tech startups, none of which sounded respectable enough for dinner conversation. I was the one who left New York and didn't look back, who missed the Christmas cruise in 2022 and forgot Aunt Sharon's anniversary dinner. They tolerated me when I was useful. But now? Now I was disposable. My fingers instinctively opened the photo folder labeled Ocean View, fireworks, sandcastles, lemonade on the porch swing, Grandpa George's faded baseball cap sitting lopsided on my head as he hoisted me toward the horizon. We used to play a game. Who could spot the first dolphin before noon? He always let me win. The scent of lemon verbena used to fill that house. Grandma insisted on fresh sprigs by the kitchen window, claiming it kept the heart light. I hadn't smelled it since the day they cleared her things after the funeral. The house changed after that. We all did. My phone buzzed again. A single heart emoji from Lauren. No message, no explanation, just a symbolic pat on the head. I stared at it for a full minute before locking the screen and tossing the phone across the couch. I should have expected this, but something about the bluntness of it, being told in a mass message that I didn't count anymore, unraveled me more than I wanted to admit. By noon, I was pacing. The walls of my apartment were clean-lined, minimalist, cold. Just like the message. No clutter, no warmth. I pulled on a hoodie, grabbed my keys, and walked. Through the park, past the bakery where I used to meet clients, toward the lakefront. I walked until my calves burned and my thoughts blurred into one long ache. Why now? Why this year? Back home, I pulled out the leather-bound journal I rarely touched and scribbled. They erased me in a sentence. I never mattered. Maybe I never did. I stared at the words until the ink bled through the page. That night, after 2 cups of peppermint tea and an unsuccessful attempt at sleep, I found myself scrolling mindlessly through real estate forums. Old habit, an escape. I liked seeing spaces, imagining what lives could unfold there. But this time, my breath caught at a title tucked between 2 outdated listings. Ocean View Estates, private interest only, inquire within. I blinked. That had to be a coincidence. Ocean View was in the family, had been for decades, but my grandfather's will, they'd always said it was handled. I clicked the link. No images, just a private contact form and the line. Ownership rights undergoing reevaluation. Direct inquiries only. My heart thudded. Something inside me snapped into focus. The ache twisted into something cooler, sharper. Not anger, not yet, but a kind of clarity, like staring into the eye of a storm and realizing you were still standing. I moved the mouse, clicked the field. Interested buyer. Serious inquiries only. My fingers hovered, then pressed enter. For the first time that day, my hands stopped trembling. I won't be stepping into the family villa, I murmured. I'll be owning the whole damn shoreline. The best revenge isn't loud. It's quiet, methodical, and signed in ink. I stared down at the blueprints spread across my home office desk, the paper edges curling slightly from the humidity, the lines clean and deliberate. 6 villas. Not one. 6. Including the one my family believed was still theirs. I remembered Lauren's words, sharp, dismissive, tossed over a wine glass one night at Ocean View 5 years ago. Owning things won't fix what's broken, Sarah. We're not hotel people. But she'd wanted it too. I saw it in her eyes when she sketched out floor plans on napkins, talked about themed rooms and beachfront brunches. She wanted to make it hers. And our mother had scoffed, called it a fantasy, said the estate wasn't for women playing business. Funny how the dream they denied her would end up in my hands. I opened my laptop and reread Mrs. Davenport's reply. Simple, courteous, happy to meet. Discretion is appreciated. Office address? 717 West Randolph, Suite 402. Eleanor Davenport. The name clicked. Eleanor had been the estate manager's wife. She used to leave fresh bread by the back door for us kids when we visited. Her husband passed away 2 summers ago, and from what I gathered, the family trust had quietly defaulted on estate taxes. No one in my family talked about it. No one ever did. Nathan arrived 15 minutes early for our meeting, which meant he was taking this seriously. Are we burning the whole thing down or just the family tree? He asked as I handed him the seller's documentation. Neither, I replied, slipping a hand into my blazer pocket. We're building. He gave me a look. Since when do you build anything that isn't digital? I shrugged, since they told me I wasn't invited. He skimmed the papers quickly, his brow arching. This isn't just the Whitaker unit, it's the entire stretch. All 6 villas. I nodded. Ocean View Estates. Not Ocean View Villa. Turns out the family never fully transferred title from the resort trust after Grandpa died. It sat under corporate ownership, technically. Long story short, Eleanor inherited the right to liquidate. Nathan whistled. And you're buying all of it? Yes. With what? Hope and spite? I handed him the financial breakdown. Savings from the acquisition deal I exited last fall, the equity buyout, a tidy sliver of my crypto portfolio, and a little clarity. The meeting with Mrs. Davenport was brief but heavy with unspoken emotion. She looked older than I remembered, smaller somehow, but her eyes were still sharp. You were always the quiet one, she said as we shook hands. Didn't expect to hear from a Whitaker. I stopped being one when they did, I replied softly. She studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Then maybe it's time someone new took care of the place. She slid the folder toward me. Blueprints, contracts, tax disclosures. I flipped through them slowly, methodically, my fingers steady. This wasn't about revenge. Not entirely. It was about ownership. About rewriting the ending they scripted without me. Back at the office with Nathan, I leaned over the dotted lines and inked my name. Once, twice, 3 times. I didn't smile, but I exhaled. Long and slow, like releasing 10 years of something I hadn't dared name. Shame, maybe. Or grief. Or the constant ache of being almost loved. The final signature clicked into place. The agreement was binding. Funds due in 7 days, the 4th of July. As we exited the quiet office lobby, Nathan walked beside me without speaking. The elevator hummed. The air smelled faintly of lemon-scented floor polish. Nothing like ocean views, sun-warmed cedar, and sea salt, but something still settled in my chest, firm and unshakable. 1 week left until July 1st. Let them walk into their villa. Let them meet the new owner. They stepped into paradise, expecting control. I stood at the other end of the lobby, holding the keys. The lobby had changed since last summer. Subtle but unmistakable. Gone were the worn wicker chairs and faded prints of lighthouses. In their place, curved velvet seating in coastal tones, brushed gold fixtures, and a fragrance of salt and lemon verbena that I'd insisted on for the diffuser system. Just a hint. My nod to what Grandma loved and what my mother always forgot. Outside, the sun blazed down on Ocean View Estates, the kind of July heat that shimmered off pavement and made every wave sparkle like it was cut from crystal. A bellhop wheeled in a single suitcase. The lobby was cool, serene, almost impossibly quiet except for the low hum of classical music playing from recessed ceiling speakers. And then the Whitakers arrived. I heard them before I saw them. Heels clicking, someone laughing too loudly. Michael's familiar drawl as he complained about the heat. I turned before they reached the front desk, hands resting lightly on the smooth marble surface, my posture still and deliberate. The receptionist, Maya, smiled and greeted me warmly. "Afternoon, Ms. Whitaker. Would you like to approve the welcome baskets before delivery?" I nodded, just as the glass doors opened wide. They stepped in, faces flushed from the sun, sunglasses still perched like shields. Lauren saw me first. She froze mid-step. "What?" she started, then caught herself, eyes narrowing. "Is this a joke?" Michael looked between us, blinking. Janet tightened her grip on her clutch bag, her expression unreadable. My father stepped forward slowly, his gaze not quite meeting mine. "This is a prank, right?" Lauren said again, but quieter this time. Maya, ever professional, didn't flinch. "Welcome to Ocean View Estates. Ms. Whitaker has prepared everything for your stay." She handed me the key folders. I turned, walked over to the group, and with a neutral smile, extended them one by one. "Lauren and Michael," I said, offering the folder tied with a green ribbon. "Villa 3, Ocean View, private patio." She took it like it might burn her. "Janet and Dad," I continued, passing them the next. "Villa 4, just past the fountain." Janet's lips barely parted. "These floral arrangements, they're a bit much." I tilted my head slightly. "You're right. Grandma chose those for her anniversary one year. I thought you'd remember." The silence that followed was pure oxygen to me. Still. Heavy. Perfect. Maya stepped aside to assist another guest, leaving a pocket of space around us. I didn't move. Michael leaned in. "What the hell is this, Sarah? Some long game?" I met his gaze, level. "It's exactly what you taught me," I said quietly. "Building legacies, owning the ground beneath my feet." He recoiled slightly, as if the words cut deeper than he expected. Lauren looked down. My mother didn't speak. My father's shoulders slumped, but there was something in his eyes. Relief, maybe? Or resignation. I offered no more. Without fanfare, I turned, walked to the far side of the lobby, and opened the private door marked Villa 1. Custom renovated. The best one. A slice of the shoreline with its own deck, outdoor shower, and a windowed office overlooking the sea. As I stepped inside, the cool hush wrapped around me. I closed the door with a soft click, then turned the key in the lock. The keychain glinted in my palm. SW, founder. Outside, the ocean hummed, indifferent. The table was long, candlelit, and full of familiar faces, minus one invitation. Mine. They'd chosen the formal dining hall, arched ceilings, linen-draped tables, soft golden light reflecting off polished crystal. Sea air filtered through the open terrace doors, brushing past flickering candles as if even the wind dared not disturb the performance inside. I stood near the far archway, not hidden, but deliberately removed. Just close enough to hear the rehearsed laughter, just far enough not to be mistaken for part of it. Janet sat at the center of the long table, directly across from my father, her pearls catching the low light. She wore the kind of smile that looked good in pictures, but not quite right in real life. Lauren leaned in from one side, pouring wine with studied grace. Michael, ever too loud, laughed at something no one else found funny. I had reviewed every course, met with the chef, confirmed the dietary notes, filed carefully under family preferences. The waitstaff greeted me with quiet deference, addressing me as Ms. Whitaker and awaiting my nod before entering with trays. But not once did anyone motion for me to sit. There was no chair left open, just like last year. Back then, the excuse had been the tables tight. Sara, just logistics, nothing personal. But now? Now it was personal and calculated. And I was letting it happen. Janet rose first. "To Richard," she said, raising her glass. "The pillar of our family, our compass, our center." Everyone echoed the toast, glasses clinking in choreographed unison. I watched my father nod with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. She continued, "Not everyone could be here tonight, and perhaps that's for the best. Some things, some legacies, are too important to be diluted by conflict." My throat didn't tighten. My chest didn't burn. I just felt still. Then I stepped forward. The servers paused as I moved beside the main table, heels quiet on the stone floor. Janet's smile faltered just enough to be satisfying. Lauren stiffened. Michael looked annoyed. My father's eyes followed me like a question he couldn't ask. "May I?" I said softly. No one answered. I raised my own glass. "To my father." They froze. Even the staff seemed to hesitate, glancing discreetly before continuing to serve. I took a breath. For the man who taught me silence has weight. That absence speaks volumes. That not being welcomed at a table doesn't mean you can't build your own. I let my gaze fall lightly on each of them. I've heard many versions of this family's story. Most don't include my voice. So tonight, I'd like to revise the record. On behalf of those who were never allowed to speak. Lauren's eyes dropped. My father didn't move. "To Richard Whitaker," I said again, softer now. "And to the children he shaped. Some of us through presence, others through distance." Michael shifted, starting to rise. "That's enough, Sara." But I turned to him with a calm that startled even me. "I'm done." I set the glass down gently on the table. "You can keep your chairs." Then I walked away. Outside, the evening was cooler. The sea whispered across the sand like it was telling secrets only I could hear. I stood beneath the awning, letting the breeze pull away the scent of linen and wine and years of not being enough. A few minutes passed. Then footsteps. Lauren. She stopped beside me, arms folded, unsure whether to speak. Finally, "Why are you doing this?" I turned toward the horizon, the last line of sunset bleeding into indigo. "Because no one else ever did it for me." She didn't reply, just stood there, quiet as if the question had answered itself. That night, back in Villa 1, I lit a single candle and sank into the oversized armchair beside the window. The ocean was dark now, the kind of black that held depth, not emptiness. I checked my phone out of habit. One unread email from Eleanor Davenport. Subject, deed clause. Time sensitive. "Sara, there's something in the original deed you may want to see. It changes everything." I read it twice. Then again. Outside, the waves kept moving. Indifferent. Relentless. And suddenly, so was I. They thought they erased me from history. Turns out I was written into its foundation. Rain began tapping on the glass just past midnight. Steady, insistent, like a countdown. I sat in the small office tucked into Villa 1, barefoot, a mug of cold tea forgotten beside the keyboard. The only light came from the screen and a small brass lamp my grandmother once kept on her porch. The PDF was old, scanned, yellowed margins and uneven signatures. But the clause was clear. It wasn't buried. It was just ignored. Clause 8C. In the event of any future transfer, restructuring, or redevelopment of Ocean View Estates, a 25% beneficiary interest shall vest in my granddaughter, Sara Whitaker, contingent on her physical presence at the site during said event. I read it 3 times. My fingers hovered over the trackpad, trembling. I had been present. On July 1st, 2023, when they held that family vote to restructure assets. I hadn't been invited, of course, but I'd shown up. At the gates. On the property. No one had opened the door, but I had been there. I never signed anything. And apparently, that mattered. I reached for the manila folder Mrs. Davenport had couriered over earlier that day. Her note was handwritten, cursive sharp but kind. Found this in the estate archives. Didn't think it meant much until you mentioned your grandmother's name. You might want your lawyer to look at this. So I did. Nathan answered on the second ring. It's nearly 1 in the morning, he said, but not unkindly. This better be good. It's more than good, I replied. It's legal resurrection. I sent the scan. Silence on the line as he read. Then a slow whistle. Sara, this clause isn't just valid, it's enforceable. They restructured without including you. That means I didn't just buy the estate. I finished. I reclaimed what was already mine. He was quiet again. Then, do you want to take this to court? No, I said. I want to take it to them. The rain outside grew heavier, casting shifting shadows across the floor. I leaned back in the chair and let my eyes close, just for a moment. Memory came softly. Grandma in the shallows, the summer I was 8. I was terrified of the tide. She stood knee-deep, arms out. One day you'll need to own your space in the world, she told me. No one gives it freely, especially not to girls like you. What kind of girl am I? I'd asked, shivering. She smiled. The kind they'll regret underestimating. I opened my eyes. My laptop screen had dimmed. The letter was half written. To the Whitaker family, you didn't cut me out. You cut yourselves off from what truly built this place, her legacy. You wanted silence. I learned from the best how to weaponize it. The cursor blinked, waiting. A knock interrupted. 3 short taps. Hesitant. I stood, startled. No one ever came here after hours, not without texting first. I opened the door. Lauren. She wasn't dressed for confrontation. Barefoot. Hoodie thrown over a silk dress. No makeup. No practiced smile. Hey, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I waited. She didn't blink. Not as your sister, she said slowly. I came as someone who's starting to wonder if we ever told the truth about anything. Rain surged behind her, a gust of wind catching her hair. I stepped aside, let her in, and said nothing. Some inherited land. I inherited silence, and I turned it into a legacy. The sun stretched long shadows across the terrace, dancing between rows of white linen-covered tables. Bougainvillea vines curled around the trellis, their vibrant pink blossoms nodding gently in the sea breeze. Everything was intentional. The choice of music, Miles Davis, subtle and contemplative. The engraved name cards, each one hand-pressed in silver. The brunch menu curated with care and just the right amount of restraint. At the edge of the space stood a single easel. On it, a black and white photograph, framed in smooth walnut. Me, age 10, arms flung around Grandma's waist, both of us sunburned and grinning. It had once lived in a back hallway, nearly forgotten. Today, it held the room. The event was called Reclaiming Legacy. No fanfare. Just those words, printed at the top of every invitation. The Whitakers arrived as if unsure whether they still had the right to walk this ground. Lauren came first, her heels hesitating on the stone path, then moving with slow certainty. She wore a simple navy dress, less polished than usual, and for once she wasn't adjusting her posture every 10 seconds. Janet followed, wrapped in a pale shawl, face drawn tighter than usual. Michael trailed behind them, sunglasses on despite the shade, gaze shifting everywhere except toward me. My father came last, slower than the rest, and for the first time, he didn't try to hide the weight behind his eyes. The staff welcomed them all with the same practiced grace they showed every guest. No special treatment, just professionalism. And that, more than anything, seemed to unnerve them. I waited until everyone was seated, until the clinking of mimosas and murmured conversation had dulled to a curious quiet. Then I stepped forward. "My name is Sara Whitaker," I said calmly. "Some of you know me. Most of you thought you did." The silence held. I grew up here. I remember the salt in the air, the way the hallways echoed during summer storms, and the smell of lemon verbena in my grandmother's closet. I also remember what it felt like to be told I didn't belong. I scanned the table slowly. Lauren looked down. Janet's mouth was tight. Michael avoided me entirely. "I'm not here to relive those memories," I continued. "I'm here to rewrite them." I gestured toward the sea. "Starting next month, Ocean View will become a residency retreat. A space for writers, artists, and founders, especially those who were once told their voice didn't matter." Several guests murmured softly, exchanging glances. "You're all welcome to apply," I said, "like everyone else." No one spoke, not out loud. After the speech, the brunch continued, quieter than before. Lauren drifted to my side near the mantel, her eyes landing on the photograph. "I remember that summer," she said. Her voice was different. Not defensive, not performative, just real. "Maybe I needed to see this." I nodded. That was enough. Janet lingered near the edge of the terrace once the guests began to leave. She stepped closer, hands clasped tightly in front of her. "I suppose I owe—" "I'm not here for closure," I said gently, cutting her off. "I'm here to build." Then I turned and walked away. That evening, the beach was quiet. The sand held the last heat of the day. I kicked off my sandals and let the water rush over my feet, foamy and cool. Stars were beginning to pierce the velvet sky, one by one. I settled onto the sand, my journal balanced across my knees. The breeze tugged at its pages, teasing the past open. I pressed pen to paper, wrote just one line. I reclaimed the shoreline, and myself. The waves answered, not loudly, but enough. They thought they could erase me with a message. No confrontation, no call. Just silence wrapped in a group text. I was supposed to read it, feel the sting, and quietly disappear. And for a moment, I almost did. But silence became a language, one I studied, spoke, and eventually mastered. I watched them enter the lobby like they owned it. Heads high, bags full, voices casual, unaware that the ground they stepped on was mine. They called it tradition. I called it rewriting history. They toasted to a legacy I was never invited to build, then choked on the fact that I now held the blueprint. Janet still wore that same pearl set she saved for public performances. Michael still smirked like the room owed him attention. My father still couldn't meet my eyes for more than 5 seconds. And Lauren, for once, looked unsure. She used to believe I was cold for not playing along. But this time, I think she saw the cost of silence, the weight of being the scapegoat in a family that worships image over truth. At the brunch, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't list receipts or drag skeletons from closets. I let the truth sit in porcelain cups and engraved name cards. I watched them realize that this wasn't just a property deal. It was a reckoning. When Lauren approached afterward, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Maybe I needed to see this." And I didn't answer. I just placed the photo of Grandma and me on the fireplace. That was enough. Janet lingered as expected, maybe waiting for a dramatic confrontation or some closing statement. But I looked her in the eyes and said, "I'm not here for closure. I'm here to build." Then I turned away. Not out of cruelty, but clarity. Later that evening, I sat on the shoreline, the one they once called theirs, with my journal open and the waves humming like applause. I wrote only one line. I reclaimed the shoreline and myself. And for the first time in years, I didn't need to write anything more. Some battles aren't fought with fists or fury, but with patience, clarity, and unwavering resolve. Sara Whitaker didn't need to shout. She simply let the truth walk into the room and take its place at the head of the table. Justice, when met with silence, doesn't vanish. It waits. It builds. And when it finally arrives, it speaks in actions that no apology can undo. Like the final chord of a long-forgotten melody, justice may arrive late, but it resonates powerfully once it's heard. For anyone who has ever been erased, overlooked, or quietly exiled, remember, reclaiming your story is the loudest answer you'll ever give. Because no wall of lies can stand forever against the tide of truth. If you've made it this far, thank you. Thank you for sitting with this story, for holding space for the silence that shaped it, for witnessing the kind of justice that doesn't arrive in thunder, but in signatures, locked doors, and ocean winds. Sara Whitaker was never meant to be the headline. She was the footnote, the maybe next time. But she stayed. She watched. And when the moment came, she didn't knock. She held the keys to everyone who's ever been quietly erased. You don't need a spotlight to matter. You don't need permission to begin again. You are not defined by the rooms that no longer welcome you, but by the legacy you build when no one's watching. If this story spoke to something in you, leave a comment. Tell us where you're watching from. Share this with someone who's standing at the edge, wondering if they still belong. And subscribe for more stories where quiet strength takes center stage. Because this channel isn't just about storytelling. It's about returning the pen to the ones they tried to write out. We're so grateful to have you here. Truly. Thank you for listening. Thank you for remembering. And thank you for choosing to stay. Until next time, build your shoreline, guard your voice. And when they forget your name, sign it in stone. We'll see you in the next chapter.